My actions that day was to save you guys, regardless of my personal safety. And I still continue to wanting to do that today, tomorrow, and as long as I'm permitted to do it. And if it is demanded of myself to do that in the future.
That's Aquino Ganell. He's a hero. Just ask him. I had my doubts about this guy big time during the testimony, and they were well-founded. So there's a man named Kyle Fitzsimmons. On January 6th, well, he was there, and he's in trouble. He's charged with a whole bunch of stuff here: unlawfully entering a restricted building, assaulting a federal officer, civil disorder. And a key witness against him is Sergeant Ganell. But turns out, according to our next guest, they think that Ganell, they caught him lying during court. I'd like to bring in Cara Castronuova. She's a co-founder of Citizens Against Political Persecution, a Newsmax contributor, and she was in the courtroom last week during this trial and Ganell's testimony. How are you? Welcome.
I'm good. Thank you, Greg, for having me on.
You bet. So what happened in court?
So I was there and I witnessed what most Americans never got to witness, which is an actual January 6th hearing where there's two sides and where there's cross-examination. And what I witnessed was the defense attorney, she was actually a public defender and a Democrat, so that made it even more shocking, cross-examine Sergeant Ganell and literally prove that he committed perjury on many different occasions. So one of the charges against Fitzsimmons that you mentioned is assaulting a police officer. Sergeant Ganell is retired from the police because he says that Fitzsimmons injured his arm and he can no longer work for the police. It turns out that the video that was shown in court by this public defender, Natasha Taylor Smith, showed that Fitzsimmons actually never touched Ganell's shield like Ganell's story says. He swore under oath that that Fitzsimmons touched his shield, which pulled his shoulder and made it impossible for him to work again as a Capitol Police officer. And she played video. She still framed it. She played it in slow motion. And Ganell, his shield was never touched by Fitzsimmons. So according to the defense attorney, the government did not meet its burden of proof when it comes to convicting this man of assaulting Sergeant Ganell.
So the shield, that's a key point here. Ganell initially accused this guy of ripping it from him and causing injury to the shoulder.
Right.
And the video does not show that. What did Ganell do? You saw him on the stand. How did he react when confronted with the video evidence that seemed to undermine his story?
Right. He was very nasty to the woman, very disrespectful, told her to get her story straight. Whenever she asked him a yes or no question, like, Sergeant Ganell, do you see his hand on your shield? Yes or no? He would resort to his media talking points that he's trained to just spit out from being a witness on the quote-unquote January 6th committee, of how he's a hero, how he was there to protect the president, the vice president, the people who were in power, the senators, and he went into this whole soliloquy. She kept asking the judge, can you please ask the witness to just answer the question, is his hand on the shield or not? He wouldn't admit that it wasn't on the shield, but he finally started to change his story and say, well, he pulled my shoulder strap then. It was my shoulder strap that he pulled. Maybe he didn't touch my shield. So his testimony just kept changing. And not only did she prove that he lied about that, she's also contested the fact, his story, that he saved another fellow officer. So by showing other videos, she proved that more than likely he didn't do that either.
It's so interesting, and it's interesting the way you put it. You're right. We have not seen hearings where there was cross-examination or the other side got to present its story. Only you have seen that, those who have attended these trials, and actually there haven't been that many of them because of the pressure for a plea agreement. Now, you saw him outside of court, and there was a bit of an exchange. I want to play that, please.
Mr. Ganell just perjured himself all over the stand in there, guys. He's getting ate alive by the public defender. He's got an IQ of probably 80. Yeah, he's not that smart, so his lawyer has to tell him which lies to say on the stand. Every time he tells a lie, gets a hard question, he has to look to that piece of trash lawyer to get the question. He lied about that on court today.
Wow, that wasn't your voice. That was somebody else. And I remember that lawyer who was sitting behind him. And I think he's been involved in all kinds of left-wing causes. So, by the way, the defense attorney, who is a public defender, so she's kind of, there she is, Natasha Taylor Smith, I believe her name is. She's doing a good job for her defendant, which, of course, is the way the system is supposed to work.
And the most incredible thing is that she's a Democrat, a Biden supporter, but she kept nailing in that these people had a right to be there on January 6th. Sergeant Gonell, basically, how dare you say that these people were all a part of a coup attempt? That was a big part of her opening statement, her closing statement, that the First Amendment is the most important part of democracy, right to address the government for grievances. And the fact that Sergeant Gonell has made many statements that everybody there was part of a coup attempt and should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law was something that she kept drilling in. And he denied saying that. And then she had to refresh his memory by replaying something that he said, which she did quite often. She kept saying, "Let me refresh your memory." And she would play something that he said in the news, made him look really foolish.
Cara, we have to go, but you know what? Number one, I never thought I'd be in such praise of a public defender from Washington, D.C., Natasha Taylor Smith. We probably have nothing in common except maybe a love of the Constitution, and I'm very impressed. And I'm very impressed by you. I continue to be. Cara Castronuova, you've been so active in all this, co-founder of Citizens Against Public Persecution. Follow her at Cara Castronuova on Twitter and at caracastronova.com for more information. Many, many thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.